Hey, well, welcome everyone. Delighted to have you join me here today. As a former history student, I know I'm biased in saying that talking about identity and how it's changed is arguably one of the most interesting topics, be that from a consumer perspective, from a business perspective, and in society more broadly. And I think the fact that we are on this five-way Zoom between UK, Australia, West Coast could not be a better demonstration of the fact that the world is more connected than ever. We're spending more and more time online. We're using an increasing amount of platforms and tools to express ourselves and connect with each other. So the question becomes, what does that mean when we talk about identity and building digital identity? What are some of the opportunities and what are some of the challenges and implications of this? And I really couldn't think of a sort of better bunch of people to have around this virtual table when we're thinking this through. Jim, Kudzi, you work at some of the largest, fastest growing social media companies of our time at Snapchat and TikTok. Alex Zaccaria, you are CEO and co-founder of Linktree, a platform that really aggregates all this social and online content under one umbrella. And Alex Masmej, you're the CEO and co-founder of Showtime, which is a social network really rethinking what it means to express ourselves through the lens of crypto. So I'd love to kick off as a starting point and by really understanding what you've observed when it comes to your users building digital identity on these respective platforms, and what's changed and what stayed the same. Jim, I'm gonna start with you. I know you focus more specifically on talent at Snapchat, but I guess more broadly, what have your team observed and what does this mean when we think about digital identity?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that on Snap, we think of everyone as a creator. Everyone can submit to our Spotlight incentive program, everyone can earn money, and everyone can make a public profile and they can start to build an audience. And then we find talented creators from both on and off platform, and we invite them into what's called our Snap Star program, which is like our version of a verified account. And we help Snap Stars succeed on the platform by teaching them best practices. But through that process, we also really learn about them as just individual people. And then we learn about their passions and we can funnel them into various tentpole opportunities across the company, like syndicated shows and Snap Originals. Syndicated shows is where we work with creators to take content that they make off platform and bring it onto Snap. And then we run ads in that show and we share revenue with them. Snap Originals is where we can partner a creator up with a production company and make a premium content that we show on the platform, and we put marketing dollars behind it. Those Snap Originals really have budgets on a minute by minute basis that are comparable to top streaming platforms. And so, fans of these creators on Snap really have the opportunity to do a deep subscribe and follow their favorite creators on multiple formats. And so at the end of the day on Snap, there's really this journey that a creator can go on where Stories and Spotlight serves as the entry point. But there's multiple ways to really move up that ladder and build that digital identity.
And Jim, I remember when we were chatting, earlier, and you were talking about, yes, there's creators, but there's also friends and sort of building, private spaces for friends to connect and communicate. How's that sort of evolved? Did people sort of come on as friends and then become creators, or how do you think about those two different identities?
Well, it's so interesting because one of the things that makes Snap unique is that we really started out as a communication platform, as you mentioned, where people, whether they're professional creators or just everyday creators that might be aspiring to be professional and might not be, can be creative and they can use the camera and they can message their friends. And I think one of the things that we started to realize is that some people on Snap who are making this amazing content want to be able to share that content with larger audiences than just their friends. And so that's a really good example of how we've listened to creators and heard what they wanted. And then we went with, together with the product team, and we came up with Spotlight, which Spotlight released last November. And it's basically a place on Snap where you can post videos to get larger audiences. So we're really focused on really empowering creators to be able to make amazing content that they're proud of, and then share that content with whatever size audience they think is right.
Yeah, because I thought it was really interesting when you were saying how it being initially focused on that kind of smaller, more private circle of friends and how that's evolved. And I'd love to get Kudzi's perspective here, because I feel like TikTok's almost on the opposite end of the spectrum initially when we think about building a much more public facing identity from the outset and enabling connections like across different communities and across different geographies. And Kudzi, I'd love to get your perspective here on kind of public versus private identities and how that resonates.
Absolutely. So I lead the community team at TikTok, and I've been here for a number of years, and I've seen it evolve quite a bit. And at the core of TikTok is that it's a platform to inspire creativity and to bring joy. So it's actually less social, but really more interest-based and entertainment-based. And what that allows to do is people to express themselves in a new way. So if you think about digital identity, if you look at the past, it was really either highlight reel or some kind of professional accomplishments and other platform. TikTok is you not only what you do, but you're also what you love as from an interest-based perspective. So you could do that private if you're just scrolling, or public if you want to be a creator as well, and share that to the world. So the world of it has really evolved so much that you get to show a new side to yourself. Even if you're a professional, you can be a creative professional on TikTok. So that's been really, really fun. So I think a great example even for how people are not only what they do, but what they love is Rex Woodbury, for example, is at Index, but he's also has a big following on TikTok, and he teaches people about kind of some of the markets he invests in. He had a great viral video around gaming, and that shows his love for his job, but also just like the industry at large, and also his creativity. And also what's been really cool is you see this in some creators as well. So a creator by the name of Alexis Nicole, who everyone should follow. She's a forager. She's this Black girl who's a forager in the city, and she's in this world where she shows this creatively, but by day she's a social media manager. In the old school way, you would have to be just a social media manager, and you post on LinkedIn, which I love all platforms, and I use LinkedIn, but you would post there and that's your thing. Now you could be that, but you could also be kind of a creative forager and really showcase kind of who you are, have a what I call like an in full bloom public experience where you're really your full self versus just like one lane. So that's been cool to see TikTok bring to the culture and really kind of allow people to have a creative, authentic expression to themselves.
Awesome. I mean, first of all, obviously love the shout out about Rex, and yeah, it's amazing to see all the content he produces as well as doing a full-time job. But I think when you talk about kind of multiple different identities and that duality, I'd love to, zoom out a little bit and bring in Alex Zack here. I mean, I guess what I've always loved about Linktree and why we were so excited to work with you guys is that you have this amazing bird's eye view across these different platforms. And as a business, you can really observe this variety of expression as a result. So how do you think about these different identities, and how consistent are they across the different platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like Kudzi said, I think Linktree is similar to TikTok in the way that it is really about creators being able to represent all sides of them and bring their whole self across anywhere they find their audience, to be able to use just one link to be able to aggregate and consolidate wherever they find the audience and really get them to where they need to get them to go to be able to either monetize or to consume the content that they really want, they are creating. And that's becoming more and more important because we're on average, we see 8.9 social media accounts per internet user in the US. That's up from around 4 in 2016. So we're seeing an explosion of different places that creators can find their audience. And that's, we're seeing an actual increase even from search and organic traffic, even direct traffic. If users put in their Linktree links in their email signatures and on their resumes and on QR codes on restaurant menus and wherever it might be. So wherever really you can find your audience. And we are seeing as younger generations coming through really are using these different platforms and getting quite good at using these different platforms for what they are great at and what they're built for. Whereas TikTok are really interactive and authentic videos, and YouTube for long form, and Medium and Substack for long form content. and Twitter for conversations. It's different content, but it's still representative of themselves and what they care about and what they love, and to be able to bring that all together and use tooling to be able to bring that together, but also track it and help remarket and add that layer of marketing technology and insights so you can better understand your audience and better understand if you are a professional creator and you are monetizing, how you can better monetize. You can use our commerce link functionality then to help receive tips or receive requests, or you can just really use it as a way to help aggregate, but get your audience to where you need to get them to go to monetize or to consume. So yeah, we're definitely seeing that Linktree is a really great way to be able to aggregate your entire digital identity across the whole internet.
And Alex, I want to pick up on what you said around, how to monetize digital identity. And I can't not ask Alex Masmej about the Alex token when we think about this and how digital identity sort of manifests and how it's valued in the real world. So Alex Masmej, I'd love for you to tell us about the genesis behind the Alex token and where it's got you.
Sure. So personally, I created a small following since 2019, entering the crypto industry and sharing ideas on Twitter, and really wanted to break into tech as a French person that's not in the Bay Area or has connections there. And I built a following of maybe 2,000 followers. And I feel like now more than ever, you don't need that much following to get started as soon as people support you. And so what I did is COVID happened and I had no funds, no jobs, no real possibilities, but I had my online identity on Twitter and I wanted to leverage it. And so what I did is I said, I am creating this cryptocurrency called Alex. I am not making any promise whatsoever, but if you give me $20,000 in this kind of next generation crowdfunding, I will give you a small share of my future income. And it went kind of viral and it was kind of fun. And I did raise the $20,000. And the goal was essentially for me to move to San Francisco and start a company and raise VC funding. And basically all of that happened in the next 9 months after that. And so I'm really excited. And to me, it's a foray into what it is to control your own economy, because the previous social networks are about controlling the economy and selling to advertisers. And that's a great business model that worked for a decade. But I think that now you can, basically decouple content from platforms back to creators. And so then you have creators being beyond platforms, aggregating all of them via Linktree, or, just using those pieces of content on Ethereum, for instance, where NFTs your content and you can display it on Showtime, which is my company that I founded, or OpenSea, which is the marketplace, or whatever pieces. It will just be interoperable into open platforms. And I think that's super interesting.
And Alex, remember when Rex again first relayed this origin story, he was explaining how you felt that by kind of focusing on crypto as a young person put you at an advantage rather than a disadvantage when you were looking to kind of break into tech. And I think that nicely touches upon how different generations look to interact and build identity. And it's certainly something that we talk a lot about at Index in terms of what do Gen Z care about? What do they value? How does this translate into new products and services to be built over time? Kudzi, I know when we last spoke, you talked about TikTok's mission of inspiring creativity and celebrating authenticity. And I feel like this word is used quite a bit, and I'd just love to hear from you kind of what does that mean, and why does that matter?
Definitely a word that is now overused in the culture. So we're going to need something else. We all need to come up with something else. We're done with that one. But I think it points to all the trends that have been happening around. People don't want to highlight real life. I think what comes with only caring about, likes and followers and all that. So TikTok, truly democratize that, where anyone can find an audience if you post something that is easy to match with someone's interests, and the pressure is really low. You can also be private or public, but you're not really posting to your followers unless you have them, or friends. You're just posting really to the world and for yourself. So Gen Z loves that feeling of no pressure. And on TikTok, you can even the pressure of creativity, coming up with a perfect, beautiful picture is actually really hard. But on TikTok, with the click of a creative effect or a hashtag or a sound, you can make a video that could find an audience and like do really well. And I think in addition to that, with a pillar of authenticity, especially for Gen Z, is like inclusivity. These are the internet people. I always say, if you look at Doja Cat or Lil Nas X, you know, I don't work in the music team, so I'm not speaking on the music, but the way they approach the internet is very inclusive. It's very progressive, and if people don't feel included, like they will be the first to say it. So TikTok does that. So we have things like our hashtag Black TikTok community, or our Latinx community that's coming up, or our Trailblazer list, where anytime TikTok goes out into the world, there's a lot of people who work really hard to make sure that that looks as inclusive as a platform. And then I think lastly for Gen Z, I think it's about, you know, people say they have a short attention spans. I don't think that's correct. I think they have like long attention spans, but need things to move quickly. Like us oldies, we talk too slow. Things are too, they want fast motion. TikTok allows that as you zoom, but also trends move quickly. If you look at the trends they love, things like the slow zoom on TikTok, which is trending, or this berries and cream trend. I don't know if y'all are up to date with all of that, but that stuff is fast and it moves really quickly, and they want to create culture. Not just kind of be told what is culturally relevant. So that's why Gen Z loves TikTok.
Yeah, we have to go back to the berries and cream trend at one point. But I wanted to just highlight what you were talking about as around kind of, you know, the sort of making sure it's a sort of low pressure environment and people are feeling kind of comfortable within their communities. And Jim, I know this is something that Snapchat think a lot about. You know, you're now reaching over 90% of Gen Z in the US, and sort of building a safe space and making sure that bit, you know, is crucial to how you're thinking about the product. It seems really important to you guys. So I'd love to hear how you're thinking about that and how that translates into your, you know, roadmap.
Yeah, sure. So just again, like I said this before, but just one of the things that makes us different is that Snap started out as a communication tool for your close friends. And so while we've expanded way beyond that, it's still like very much core to who we are. And our entire platform is really built around the well-being of our community instead of just focusing solely on their audience growth. And so like we emphasize authenticity too. And I like agree with Kudzi that it's definitely like an overused word, but I love the way you guys are thinking about it. And we think about it, you know, that way too. And I think, you know, one of the things that we think a lot about is that authenticity happens when you remove pressure. And I think that really fosters a creative environment where, you know, that's true whether you're sharing a snap with like one or two friends or you're posting it for large audiences. And just every time we build a new feature, we're thinking about the mental health of our community, and that's factoring into the decisions we make. And so, you know, it's one of the reasons why we like don't have public facing comments. And for many young people who today are in some cases having a lot of issues with mental health that gets exacerbated by their time spent online, like we become a safe space for them. It's fun. It's where they can be creative with their closest friends. And, you know, we don't provide a very good forum for their haters and for their trollers. And so it tends to be a place that's less stressful in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. And I think maybe shifting from kind of why Gen Z kind of gravitate towards the kind of platforms and what they're liking versus maybe what they don't have yet. Alex, Masmej, you know, you wouldn't be building a new social layer for the internet if you thought Gen Z were 100% satisfied. So I'd love to think, you know, how you're building Showtime with this demographic in mind.
Right. So I feel like, yeah, like there's a couple of things that was said on younger people and Gen Z. And I feel like, yeah, being authentic, inclusive, positive. I think all of those things actually can align with, you know, controlling your own economy. In crypto, you can have aligned incentives where, for instance, you know, an artist drops an NFT as a digital artist, and it's not owned by the platform, but by themselves. The first buyer essentially is kind of an investor in that artist's growth. And as the artist grows in popularity, that person grows as well. And so it feels like it's a very collaborative game where, you know, it's a win-win for both parties involved. And this is just a very basic example and a sneak peek into the future where I think like early followers or early audience members of a person can share the upside, with creators also making way more money now that they own their economy and it's not in traditional social networks hands to monetize. So I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see that when people are fairly valued online, they feel more respected, they feel more positive. We see this on Twitter all the time. The NFT community also on Showtime is extremely positive. And that's because suddenly they're treated the fair share. Beeple, who is an artist, who is, was worked with Justin Bieber and LVMH and all of those people, had 3 million followers on Instagram. Nothing wrong against Instagram, but he could not monetize that well, although he was the top 1% digital artist. And he just tried NFTs for a weekend and it sold for millions. And sure, there may be some overinflation of the price or speculation because it's very new, people are excited, but it is a sneak peek into, those social networks today are worth trillions of dollars because capturing attention and monetizing it is very valuable. If we give it back to people, now creators can make a living online much more easily. And it's not just the superstars that are going to be priced in, it's going to be everyone, because, there's this great article called 1,000 True Fans from like 10 years ago, who says that, creators don't need millions, but they need a community. And I think with NFTs, they can focus on community now because they don't have to focus on monetizing as much. And to me, that's such a key insight, that if you are valued fairly, you will be more authentic, you will be more yourself. You don't have to cater to brands. You don't have to be, only obeying to sponsors and things as such. You are more free economically, and that makes you so much better. You can have the impact that you want, which is probably what Gen Z generations want more. So all of the things that Gen Z people care about, which are basically being genuine, community, inclusiveness, well, when you can actually make a living and you get your fair share, it's not about greed, it's about getting your fair share of your work because you own your content now. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And we can get the fans as well to get also a fair share because they supported that person early. So to me, it's going to be absolutely incredible this decade for social media. It's going to be great.
Love the passion. No, it's interesting when you talk about how everyone can be a beneficiary, right? Because I think something that we're struck by, and actually Danny and Jack and Dylan were touching upon it earlier in an earlier panel, is that the more that we sort of create and the more tools we have for this kind of user generated content, the more everyone sort of becomes a creator and everyone can be a beneficiary. So this distinction between consumer and creator kind of becomes redundant over time. Alex, Zach, I know this is something we've talked a lot about and go back and forth on in terms of what makes a creator, and does everyone want to be a creator? Does everyone define as a creator? Linktree serves a whole bunch of different users, from Bollywood stars to pizza restaurants to churches. And yeah, I guess I'd love to hear from you. How do people think about the label of being a creator? And how do you navigate this when you're thinking about serving all of your community?
Yeah, I think this is a fascinating space. We truly believe that everyone's a creator, like Jim mentioned earlier, and I think we really think in the same way that everyone's a creator. You created an email this morning. You created a deck at work to show your finance metrics. You still created something, and I think people are through more and more UGC platforms and some of the amazing work that a lot of these great people here are doing on great platforms, it becomes easier and easier for people to create. It does make it difficult to really actually, I guess, define what the creator economy is, and those that are professionally creating and those that believe themselves to be part of the creator economy, and those that we would probably define as part of the creator economy, and also that don't necessarily think they themselves are part of the creator economy. I think we see this see it on a spectrum where we have a lot of creators that are very much that clear definition of being part of the passion economy or the creator economy, where they're really creating content to monetize. They're working through tip jars and taking requests, and or they're really making money from whatever they create. It might be selling candles on Etsy, all the way through to those that really are just consuming and are there to transact and consume with the creator economy. And in the middle, I think there's creators that are, say, musicians on independent record labels that are like, they want to be making money from touring. They're making money from their creation, but they wouldn't consider themselves a creator. And I think that is evolving over time, so that as tooling becomes easier and as more platforms come online to help these creators be able to monetize and be able to aggregate their content and to be able to manage their business as a whole, I think is kind of these users or creators in the middle of this spectrum are really starting to become or recognize themselves as creators as well. I think there's, I really think we're only at the beginning still of so many of these platforms creating tooling for these creators to create. I think it's a fascinating time.
And I guess that nicely kind of tees up the last question, which is around, we're all talking about creators, we're all talking about the tools that they need and that they want, and everyone seems to be sort of building for the creators. So I guess the question to you guys is kind of what's left to build, what's still not working, and how you're thinking about this. And Kudzi, I'm going to start with you.
I mean, obviously can't give anything away just yet. We're always exploring ways to make sure our creators, can find community, specifically diverse communities, turn their creativity into a livelihood, for those that want to do that. Some people come to create for self-expression and creativity. So more tools to lower the barrier of creation, which is one of kind of the keys to TikTok, but also for those that want to, create full time or have an additional way to supplement their livelihood. So a lot there, and a lot of feedback from the community around attribution and trend set as an originator, is making sure that they're easy to identify and making sure that they are recognized and reap the rewards and benefits there. So these are all like exciting realms. I think ultimately, if our mission is to inspire creativity and to bring joy, there's a cohort of those people are creators, and you want to make sure that they have the best place to create, but also the most inclusive place to create, and one that serves their life beyond just making videos. I always say these are not video generators. These are real people with like real needs, and making sure that they feel safe, loved, and welcomed is top of mind for us.
I think it's so interesting around attribution and being able to build that into how we think about, trends taking off. Jim, you're up next. What's still missing?
Well, I think one of the challenges we've had is we just realized that creators are not all the same and they're individual people. And so it's a lot of work. We've had to really take a very hands-on, one-on-one approach to relationship building and really nurturing creators as people, rather than just speaking at them. And then they teach us as much as we teach them. And we're really able to take their perspectives back to our product team and ship products as a result of, their perspective. And so a great example of this is we just launched gifting, which now is going to allow fans to send gifts to Snap Stars, and then those Snap Stars will be able to cash that out for money. We're in the process of rolling out a brand creator marketplace where brands and creators can meet and brands can hire them. And, I mentioned Spotlight, but for a long time, we were, so much more focused on helping creators communicate one-to-one. But, as we were talking to them, we learned that, some creators on our platform want to broadcast content to larger audiences. And so, out of that came Spotlight, and that's, like a place where they can jump onto trends and they can earn money. And, that's all the result of, one-on-one conversations that we've had with them, learning about their pain points and then trying to implement it.
Awesome. Alex, Masmej, is everyone getting social tokens in the next 12 months?
I'm not sure if everyone will create their token. I think it's a little bit like streaming. So not everyone is a streamer online. Everyone is a TikTok and Snap creator, but not everyone is a streamer. So it's something that with content people will agree to. But to me, opening up the database, everyone owning their own economy, to me will be huge. I think today at TikTok, from a different team than you, Kudzi, but Christina and others, released NFTs today with Lil Nas X, which is a legend and I love. And it's so exciting to see. Culture is probably the most diverse thing of our society. And if we empower financially culture, it's going to be amazing. So yeah, opening up the database of like siloed communication giants so that everyone can benefit and all the creators can actually capture the value that they create.
Awesome. And finally, Alex, Zach, what's still left to be built?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier. I think we're really only at the start of platforms really, enablement for creators, and I think there's a huge amount to do. I think one of the key things that are missing still is, I guess, the kind of community where creators can be discovered, but also have complete agency and control over their community. I think there's creators really screaming out for the ability to have a bit more agency and control. And also just more platforms that continue to enable anyone to get online and have a digital presence. And that's definitely something that we're working really hard to do, to just make make it the most, to completely democratize digital presence and enable anyone with an internet connection to be able to get online and have a place where they can find their audience and get them to where they want to go to monetize and to aggregate their content. And I think there's talent all over the world that still we are yet to discover because of that. So yeah, we're really excited about opening that up. And I'm super excited about what everyone on this panel is doing. I think NFTs and crypto is just such an important way for, I think, creators to continue monetizing, and the easier we make that, I think it's really important. It's a fascinating time.
Awesome. Well, it's certainly very energizing to hear you all speak about how we're only at the beginning when we think about digital identity and creator tools, and what the world looks like for them in the next number of years. So thank you so much for joining me today. And that's a wrap.
Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to meet you all.